Welcome, welcome. Good to see you all. I'm so glad you're here and really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And I have the slide link right here. Okay, I see more people coming in. Hello, welcome everybody. Good to see you all. And as you are joining in, I have this opening question right here. What's one tool, edtech or otherwise, that's making your life easier these days? So feel free to drop it in the chat.
Polvorones, orejas. The smell of that bakery at 6 in the morning was something.
Anu, you're muted.
Oh, hello everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here and really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. As we wait for a few more people to hop in, feel free to say hello in the chat and respond to our opening question. And the question is, what's one tool, edtech or otherwise, that's making your life easier these days? So, and I see people responding, ChatGPT, Spotify, Quizlet, Kahoot. Interesting. And okay, anything else that's of interest? Copilot, Gemini. I know we have these Gemini, ChatGPT, and Copilot. Those are my go-to also. I keep trying it out. And recently I attended a workshop on Copilot, and they have added quite a few interesting features, and I'm pretty impressed. So do check it out. I can share some links of the training slides that I got, which may be, very interesting and easy to follow. So that is that. Okay, we will get going. So let me move on and introduce myself. I am Anu Gupta. I'm the EdTech Coordinator at the Santa Clara County Office of Education. And today's topic is Padlet. I'm very excited about that. We will learn, and the topic is future-ready collaboration with AI tools, new AI tools, which Padlet has recently added and improved and integrated. So we are very excited to see what we have here today. And to take us through this journey, we have with us Zareen Levien has been in education for the past 20 years as a classroom teacher in Oakland and San Francisco, a technology and project-based learning coach, and as the director of digital learning for the San Francisco Unified School District. She is now the education marketing manager at Padlet and helps educators all over the world use Padlet powerfully for student engagement and learning. So what better combination could we have? We have a classroom teacher, a digital coach, and also now a marketing manager or at Padlet who has access to all these amazing tools and who has done so many trainings and walked people through use of Padlet for student engagement and learning. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Zareen, and please take it over from me. Thank you.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here. Thanks for joining everyone and spending some time to learn a little bit more about Padlet. It's great to meet you all, and thanks for that lovely introduction. I would love to know who we have in the room with us, so I'll just ask you all if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves in the chat. Just tell me quickly what your role and school is, so we can get a sense of who's here and get to know each other a little bit. And then I'm going to share my screen and I'll share all of these resources with you. So this session is also being recorded, and you'll have everything that I share here as well. I'll put those resources in the chat in just a minute. And we'll do some interactive things in this session as we use Padlet a little bit more. Oh, great. Thanks for these introductions. Look like we have a few different roles already. Some coaches, some different, a couple of high school teachers I'm seeing. Lovely. And also some younger grade teachers. Awesome. So as was mentioned, here, let me actually move this in. So I'm on a Padlet, which is probably no surprise. Padlets can be used as presentation tools as well as collaboration tools. I'll show a couple of different examples of that. I'll put these resources in the chat now because I'm going to have you do a few interactive things on here. I'll skip over these introductions since I was already introduced. But yeah, I've been at Padlet for the last couple of years, but think of my time in the classroom and coaching a lot when I'm here to try to think about ways that Padlet can be most relevant for all of you. All right, so if you wouldn't all mind coming to my Padlet here, and my first question for you is if you could fill out these two polls that I have towards the top here. So the first one is just, what is your experience level with Padlet? Or do you feel like you're a beginner or intermediate or advanced at Padlet? And my second question is if you have an account yet or not. I know we might have some different folks who are newer to Padlet, or maybe people who already have school accounts and premium accounts. Also okay if you're not sure what kind of account you have. But this will just help me understand who's here with us. Okay, great. So I see a few answers coming in here, and I see that we do have several beginners, so I'll give you a little tour around, but then for our more intermediate and advanced users, I'll also share some of our newer things, so hopefully everyone will come away with something interesting. The first thing you may have noticed is, I don't know, for those who have seen Padlet before, you may have seen discussion boards or places where you put kind of answers to questions or that kind of thing, and that's a great use of Padlet. But Padlet can be many things. You can put polls on here, you can put images, you can put videos. I'll show you quickly under the post box here, if you were making a Padlet, you have access to all of these different attachments, and we've continued to add these things to Padlet to make it very flexible, but it can also be very simple. So it's kind of up to you how you want to customize your Padlet. But if you wanted to make a whole Padlet full of polls, you could add that kind of attachment, or you could add recordings right here, AI images, links to YouTube videos or websites. So you have a lot of different options here. And one other kind of fun thing about a Padlet is you can actually play it as a slideshow now. That's a newer feature. So you can, you don't have to do any extra formatting. You can put a bunch of resources on a Padlet, and then you can just click on the slideshow here. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to come over here and start a slideshow from this post. I have one more interactive thing for us to play with to start us off, and we'll do a little bit more later. But if you want to come with me over to this Padlet, this is one of our new kinds of Padlets called Sandbox. It's a whiteboard that's similar to Google Jamboard if you ever used that. So on this one, you have a bunch of tools over here on the right. So I have a simple question to get started. What's your favorite food? You can type it in text, so I can come over here and write something. I can use a Post-it if I want to. I can search for an image if I want. I can use an emoji sticker, which is kind of fun. So there's many different kinds of tools on here. And if you click at the three dots at the bottom, you'll just see a list of all those tools. I encourage you to add more than one thing if you want to as we play on here a little bit. So this is something simple that you, even if you're brand new to Padlet, you could walk away with and do this tomorrow with students. It's very simple to set up. You just make a new blank whiteboard and then ask a question, and then students can come on here. We have some different options for privacy. If you want to just have students come to a board without logging in, that's totally fine. Or if you wanted them to have to log in, you can set all of those settings. So I'll go into all of that in just another moment. If you've already added something on here, you can also play on one of the second or third cards over here. If you are a Padlet user already and want to share anything about how you use it, you can do that. And then there's just some more space to play over here. If you want to try some of the other attachments, we have some fun shapes in here. You can try looking around on these emojis if you want. So this is just an open place to play on here. Like all of our Padlet boards, and sandboxes, you have a lot of control over what happens on here. So right now we can see some different cursors. You have access to all of the attachments here. All of those things can be changed under my settings gear. So if you want, you can just leave it as the default, but you have a lot of options to customize your activity a little more if you want to. And as we go through Padlet a little more, I'll kind of point some of those out as we go. All right, well, thank you for participating on here. Feel free to keep playing on there for a minute as you're exploring those tools. Sandbox is really fun. It's what we call our whiteboarding tool, because you can see it's just it very quickly feels kind of fun and creative, and a place for people to play and share ideas. All right, and one other fun feature of our slideshow is this is another kind of new feature. I can add a Padlet into a Padlet. So it's kind of a Padlet inside a Padlet. And then when I play this as a slideshow, this is interactive. So I can kind of embed things and then continue on my slideshow. So that's just a little side note for us. All right, well, going ahead with our agenda today, we're doing a few getting started things right now and a little bit of intro to Padlet, since we do have some folks who are newer to it. And then I'll dig in a little bit more to some creative examples that we've been seeing with teachers that I think are fun to think about how we might help students be creative and collaborative. The theme of this session was kind of future-ready collaboration, so both those kind of regular modes of collaboration and then thinking about some of the new AI tools we have, so I'll share those. And then we have lots of resources for you to walk away with. And I will keep putting this main resource page into the chat so that you can have that. I'll share that at the end as well too. Okay, so a little bit of background about Padlet. We often say that at Padlet you can make beautiful boards to collect, organize, and present anything. And it's really up to you what you want to put on a Padlet. You can put a lot of content on there, you can put resources, or you can do something like I just did with our opener, where you just ask a question and the students or participants add in their ideas. And so that's another fun way to use Padlet. As you can see, the hope is that it creates a lot of engagement and allows all students to share their ideas in one place and really have fun doing it. So it can be another thing you have kind of in your toolkit to help students share their ideas visually or with video or audio and kind of get some thinking in a different way. Here's a couple of examples of kind of what I think of as kind of like standard Padlets. Like if you've used Padlet before, you might have seen something like this, where there's a text discussion. This is an example of a topic you might discuss, and different students could put their ideas on here. It can be all text like this, or it can include some of those multimedia options that I was showing. And you can see on here too that you can have a post and then have other students kind of comment with their ideas on it. So I think that interactivity and the ability to kind of debate and discuss is what has really resonated with a lot of Padlet users. And then to take that a little bit further, you can see this one looks quite different. There's a lot of visuals on here. This is an example of student-created math word problems. So again, the teacher didn't do a lot to set this up, so she invited students to share their ideas, and they had fun kind of really sharing their personalities here, writing their own word problems, and then from there, other students could solve them, give feedback, and some students added images. Some students even had things written on paper and they took a picture of that. So that's something you can kind of combine that offline work, in-person work, and document things online. So that one is kind of using a few more of the attachment types that are available. And I like that one too, because it just feels like they're having fun with those math word problems. And so I love to see that when the academic goals are really being met, but you can tell that students are engaged and enjoying it and sharing with each other. It just makes it the learning a lot more fun and a lot more effective. Okay, so let me take you into some more, actually let me do one more thing before I take you into some of our more kind of creative examples. For those who've used Padlet before, this will be very familiar, but some things may have changed too if you've used it longer ago. We continue updating our designs. I have a lot of Padlets in my account. Yours might be like this, or it might have fewer Padlets. This make page is where you'll find a lot of the things that will help you get started. So if you don't have an account yet, or if you're not sure, you can go to padlet.com, you can try logging in, or you can create a new free account if you want. And at the end of the session, I'll also share a special code if you want to try our premium accounts, which allow you to make unlimited Padlets for the next 2 months. So that'll be a little tip for those who have free accounts or who are just getting started with a new account. Another thing about Padlet is even if you have a free account, you can still use all the features. You're just limited to 3 Padlets at a time. And really it's fun to use a lot more Padlets than that. So I'll give you that code at the end, or if you want to access it on the bottom of that resource page, it's there. So if you're making a Padlet for the first time, like say you wanted to make a similar example to that first opener that I shared about what is your favorite food, I could come to this page and I could make a blank whiteboard right here. And all I have to do is click there, and then I'm going to come to my text tool and ask my question, like in my example, what is your favorite food? And then I can come to my sharing arrow and share this, or I could just take this URL. But I come to my sharing arrow, and I can make sure my visitors can write on this page. I'm in a school account too, so I have this, but you can also do it without a school account. And I can either share a link or I can share a QR code to invite students or participants to come here and participate. And really, that's all I need to do to get started. There's a lot more you can do, and I'll show you a lot of those other fun settings and attachments and capabilities. But this is a great way to start, especially if you just want a quick opener, something new to do with students. Great. And just also, if you have questions along the way, please don't hesitate to drop those in the chat. I'll just keep keeping an eye on that if you have questions come up along the way. So this is a whiteboard. You might have noticed on this make page, there's lots of different formats. So I could make, this is more of a standard Padlet wall. So I could ask another question, what did you do over the weekend? I can try out these different formats, but I can just use the wall, that's fine. Same thing, I can click on the share arrow, I can share this URL. So I encourage you to try that if you are maybe newer or less familiar with some of the other features yet. But next, I would love to show you some of those other things to kind of imagine what you might try and see how other people are using Padlets. So this is one that's all polls. So similar to that poll, those couple polls that I had on our resource page, you could ask students a bunch of interest questions like this. What's your favorite pet? What's your favorite ice cream flavor? This is something that I've done with students. Actually, at the beginning of this school year, I was teaching an elective for some middle school students, and it was just a quick way that I could learn some things about them. And I remember in our class, it just turned out that almost everyone really loved cats, which is kind of funny and unexpected. And it's something that I wouldn't have really learned quickly about the group if I hadn't done a poll like this. And then it became like something that we could connect about. And I started using like cat emojis and cat pictures in some of my resources. And so it was a quick way for me to learn about students. To make a Padlet like this, I'll just show you again. You could make a blank wall, and then you could come over here to the post box, and I could just add in my polls, and I could keep doing that and add a bunch of questions, or you could have students make up the questions as well. Also, one other thing, if you really like one of these examples that I have and you want to use it, you are totally welcome to copy any of these examples. There's a copy button, we call it a remake button right there at the top, the arrows that point towards each other, and you'll be able to copy that, and it'll make a fresh copy, and then you can use that with your students. Okay. So that's a poll. You can also do a map format. That's one of the options when you make a new Padlet board. And I've heard from teachers that they're using maps in all kinds of interesting ways. This is just where you're from or where your family is from. Similar to Padlet walls, you can put images, you can put text on here, so it can be a very rich with content. The back end of this is also based on Google Maps, so it's not just a static map. It can zoom all the way in to a state or a city or a very local area. So I'll come down here to San Jose. So I've had a lot of teachers say sometimes they make a very local map about the area around their school or the history of their city.
Yeah, they really funny.
Or it could be a global map that's more about Mute again. Okay, great. I think I'm unmuted again. Yeah, it could be a very global map that has global phenomena, climate change, volcanoes, earthquakes, or a historical map, the history of California Gold Rush or of the Constitution or whatever you want to kind of cover. A lot of interesting ways you could use maps. Some librarians recently told me that they made a book map. So they had students rate different books they were reading and put them on the map where the setting of the book was, which I thought was a cool idea. So a lot of fun things you can do with maps. And then one more here, this is on our whiteboard tool. So you might have seen some of these tools when we were playing with that original opener. You can come over here and make shapes. You can do all kinds of fun things like concept maps or organizers, but they can also include multimedia, like videos and images. And I'll just show you really quickly over here. Actually, let me do this from a blank sandbox. So I'm going to come back to our make page. And I was showing you this before. When you make a whiteboard, you can just come up here and ask a question. The other thing that pops up that's really nice is you have all these templates at the bottom, and I can go and check all of those out right here. And so these can be a nice way to just make a quick Venn diagram, or like in that example, like a concept map or a number line. And you could use any of these T-charts, KWL charts, Foursquare. You could use this for a question of the day. So you can start with any of these kind of things, and then maybe I like this, but maybe I want to use this for a math equation or something like this. Or maybe I want to put a vocabulary word in here and have students complete different things. So you can come in here and change any of these. Maybe I want a different color here. So the organizers just help you get started, and then you can customize that further. Okay, so those are a couple of interactive Padlets that you can make. Copy any of these or use any of those templates if you're interested in that. And then here are a couple of other kind of creative boards where students are really sharing their work or creativity. This was from a teacher who had students each have their own column, and it's sort of like a science journal. So they have the students' names here up at the top, and then as they're doing their experiment, they're putting down their research question, they're putting photos in here. You can even link to documents or lab reports if you wanted to. And you could come back to a board over and over again like this. So you might have a board for a whole week or a whole unit or a whole project, and just keep coming back to it and adding different things. So that was a fun use of Padlet. And here's another one. I know that podcasts are sometimes really fun and popular to do in classes, but sometimes that requires learning a whole new tool or recording something in one place and then putting it over somewhere else. And in Padlet, you can do that all in one place if you wanted to. We have some simple recording tools, but because Padlet is a very visual place to collaborate, it's easy to put up everything on a board like this. So here, students could just come make a new post. You can put in there some specialized prompts here. What topic are you doing? And then students could add an image here. So like they've added a cover image for their writing, and then they could come and comment on their writing and record their voice reading that aloud. So they could do that all in one place, and then that could be shared with families, community members, other classes, and a nice place to have kind of their final products showcased. Show you one or two more here. This is an example from an art class, but I like this because it really shows how the work that you all are doing so much great work in the classroom live, and so Padlet can be a great place to just document things that are happening. In this case, they're making a mural, which is really amazing, but you might just be doing group work or presentations or discussions that are happening live in the classroom, and you could take pictures, you could make recordings, and you could document that here on a Padlet if that's helpful to refer back to or to kind of remember what you did. So lots of different creative options there. And then this last section is also a really common usage of Padlet. This was recently from a Spanish teacher over in Campbell Unified. she just put her all her resources for her class, and this was actually just for herself to kind of keep track. We have so many different websites and videos and games that might be helpful for different lessons. She decided to just put that all on a Padlet, and then this could be shared with students if you wanted, or this could just be a place where you stay organized or share things with other teachers. And this is a great example of having all those resources in one place. Oh yeah, thanks for that comment. Yeah, it's great that students can record their thinking in different ways, right? So often we ask students to respond in text or in writing to things, which is one way. And then by using a Padlet board, you could have them, record their voice, record a video, draw a picture, add an image, and access all those different ways of expressing themselves. And then one more example here. This is, you could put resources for students. This is all about ocean ecosystems and assignments for different groups with videos, discussion questions, attachments to homework. So it's a great place to collect up resources, whether it's teaching resources that you want, or whether it's student-facing resources that they can access in class or for homework, or at their own pace as needed. Okay, so these Padlets all look really different, and I just like to show kind of a range of different things here. I'll come back to this main resource page. So I shared a bunch of different things here, and I'll put one more link in the chat here. We have a lot of more Padlet examples, so I showed you a handful of those, and then I know we have people from different grade levels here and different subject areas, so if you wanted to click into more elementary examples or more secondary examples, you could click into some of these and explore a particular subject area just to get a couple more ideas here. So feel free to poke around with those either now or later if you want to kind of explore things. I'm going to share a couple more features that we have. This is maybe a little bit more for our intermediate and advanced users, but anyone can make use of these. I think they're not too difficult to set up any of these things. And then we'll get into a bunch of things about AI next, which is going to be fun. So maybe I'll just do one or two of these so in the interest of time, but you have all of these resources here. This next one I think is actually my most favorite feature that is a little bit hidden. But we were speaking about in the chat, Anu wrote about like students recording their voice. So this is an example of that. But it's actually in a high school physics class, those students, and these students were English language learners. So it was also a way for them to practice their fluency, which was nice. So instead of writing down their reflections about the experiments, they recorded their voice with those reflections. And what the teacher was able to do here under the post box, instead of having all of those attachments there, which can be a little bit overwhelming, you can limit this and you can customize this box to have a specific prompt, a specific question here. So the way you do that on your own Padlet, when you make a Padlet, you come to the post box and then you can click on this little pencil here for edit fields. And here you have a whole menu of things that you can change. So you can have default text for your subject, for your body, and this one's my favorite. You can change what attachments are available. So here, I turned off all these other attachments which aren't needed for this assignment, and I just turned on this audio recording option. So it just simplifies things and helps direct students and focus them in on these and not get distracted by all those other things. Okay, there's a few other features. Oh, well, let me do one more because this one is good too, and then I'll move us into the AI features. So this next one is if you had one of those templates. For example, this was all about animal habitats. This is using one of the templates in our whiteboard tool, the sandboxes. So sometimes I want everyone to come onto the same Padlet with me together like we did at the beginning, and sometimes I want each student to fill out their own copy. So this feature that I'm going to share allows an automatic force copy for each student, but you don't have to do any extra setup. You can just share one link with them, and then when they open that, it'll make them a copy. So to do that, I'm going to click on the share button, and I'm going to come over to auto remake link. And here I get a special link, so I copy this link, and then I can give just one link to all my students, and then it's going to make me a copy. It's going to put my name in the top here, and each student will have that same experience. They'll get a blank template that they can fill out, and no one else will be on there with them. It'll just be accessed by them and the teacher. And then down here, this is lovely because down here it will list all the copies that were made. So I can come over here and I can look at Larissa's report, and I can see what she filled out with those animals. or I can come back here and see what Jimmy did. And so you can kind of keep tabs on everything, but everyone has their own space to make things. So again, in order to make something like this, I would make a blank Padlet, and I would use one of those templates probably, maybe customize a little bit, and then I would go to share and auto remake link down here. Yeah, great question. So not everyone can see these reports, only the teacher can. So when I come down to that auto remake link, these are all settings that are just available to me, and all of these links are just available to me. So it allows for a private space for students to do their own work. Thanks for the question. Okay, so I have all of these examples on this resource page, so you can always go back and look at those if that's helpful. But next I wanted to get into AI tools, which is always very interesting to think about what new things we can keep doing with AI. And there's a lot of new things in Padlet that you can use, and so I'll show you some of those things. I also like to talk, for a while, I think when teachers started using AI, everyone was talking about, oh, it's efficiency. It can help us do things faster. And I think that is a helpful use of AI. But I think a lot of the more interesting uses, speaking for myself, is about creativity and engagement, and actually increasing student critical thinking with new media types. And I think there's a real opportunity there to deepen learning, as opposed to, a lot of the time when we talk about AI, one of the biggest worries is that we're doing the opposite, right? We're like limiting student thinking, and we're not letting them kind of figure things out for themselves. So kind of flipping that around and thinking, well, how could we do that? How can we use some of these tools in a way that is very creative, and a way that does promote thinking, and what kind of questions and prompts would do that? So here's a couple of ideas that we've been kind of gathering as we talk to different teachers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about AI images first, which I like as a way to introduce AI to students. And certainly, through recent research, most students are already using AI in one form or another, whether it's at home, on smart devices, or on their phones. And so I also think about that too. Even if we're not sure exactly how to use it in the best way in class, we're pretty confident that students are already using it on their own. So why not bring it into class and talk about it, be reflective about it, even if we don't do it perfectly. Doing it together and talking about it together with some teacher guidance and with some peer input can be a really interesting place to explore together with our students. So one of our attachment types, I've been showing you all these tools, is an AI image right here. And so you can come in here and you can make a prompt. So I'll say, let's see, kittens by the Golden Gate Bridge. And it'll give you some options here of images right here on a Padlet. You don't have to go to another website or somewhere else to find those images. And so you can use it in a lot of different ways. You could do just a fun opener, what's your favorite animal, what's your favorite place, and that's a fun way to use AI. But there's a lot of academic uses as well that could be interesting. So here's an example of just a beginning English vocabulary. So these are all AI images. You could have some simple sentences, simple definitions. You could even have students continue to have additions to this kind of living dictionary. A couple of other ideas here. Again, this was from some librarians, and I thought this was a really interesting idea. This is taking a book that the class is reading, and it has this book cover, and then asking students to design their own book cover with an AI image. So this is what I was talking about in terms of like designing prompts that could promote more critical thinking and reflection and debate. So in order to make these images, students are thinking about what was the most important message of the book? What were the themes in the book? What was an important moment or an important character in the book? And then they can have a discussion about that. Oh, why did you think that was so interesting? Oh, these look kind of similar. What kind of prompts did you use, and why did you choose those? And so it can lead to a lot more discussion about theme, important moments, important characters. But it's also a way to kind of engage students. And I found when I was a coach and a teacher that oftentimes, like one thing that I loved about technology is I saw sometimes different students getting engaged than might be engaged if we had just an oral discussion or if we had a paper assignment. So kind of hooking in some of those students who might be reluctant with kind of some fun things that might relate to their interest in digital media, but then still using that to accomplish your academic objectives. So that was a book cover example. It could be a creative writing exercise, like building their own haikus and then illustrating those. We've seen a few grammar lessons and vocabulary lessons from teachers where students could add their own images along with that. And this was one more that I thought was really fun. This teacher was doing a plant unit with students, and so as an intro to that, she had students just invent their own plants and imagine what kind of name they should have and what medicinal qualities or poisonous qualities they have, and then make some illustrations to go along with that. So a lot of opportunities for creativity and really engaging student thinking as opposed to diminishing it when giving them some of these open-ended prompts, but allowing them to use these tools. And I think for me anyway, it makes a lot of sense to constrain tools and constrain assignments as well. So asking them to do something very specific, but that will have a kind of creative expression element to it. All right, and then I have another resource linked in here. I don't know if anyone here participated in AI Literacy Day. It was a fairly new thing, I think. This year was my first time participating in it anyway. A few organizations like Common Sense Media and AI EDU put together some resources. So we made a Padlet with some fun AI activities based on Common Sense Media lessons, but using Padlet to make it a little bit more interactive. So that's just another resource for you all. Okay, well, let's play a little bit with one activity that I made recently that I think is kind of fun. And this is kind of digging into that idea of AI literacy a little bit more. So if you all want to join me on this Padlet. The question here is, each of these images has one that is real and one that is AI generated. And so you have to guess which one is real. And so if you think this one is real, you give it a thumbs up, and then you would give that a thumbs down, or vice versa. So whichever one you think is real, you give it a thumbs up. This activity is all based on a Britannica page, and so I've linked that here. I'll also show that to you in just a minute, because that has the original images on it. So I'll let you come on here and vote. Some of them are pretty tricky, but that's what I sort of love about it. It allows for a lot of thinking, discussion, noticing details, and it also allows for students to share. Like, some students might know a lot about what would make an image look real or AI generated, and some students that might be kind of new for, so they can be observant and learn from each other and share each other's ideas here. So I'll give you a couple minutes to play with that. While you're doing that too, I'll just pause and invite anyone to ask more questions in the chat if anything I've said has prompted some thinking or wonderings for you.
I had one question, Zareen,
Yeah, please. Yeah.
and that is like, if it was like student doesn't want their assignment or recording to be heard or seen, is there a way to or for you to hear it before they post it?
Yeah.
Is there a way that you could do that? They post it, but not everybody sees it. Only the teacher sees it, and she approves it, and then it goes on the Padlet.
Yeah, there definitely is. There's two ways to do that. I think the easiest way is just what you said. So under settings, there's an option for moderation. So if I come down here to moderation, and you might use this for a number of different reasons, but I can change this to manual moderation, and that means that every post that's made, I will have to approve before others can see it. As the owner of this Padlet, I get to see everything. So you might want to do that for a couple of reasons. Maybe you just want to monitor what people are doing before it's shared, but maybe you don't want to actually ever share it with other people. So you could just keep them unapproved and collect privately responses or videos, or review it first and then post it once everyone is comfortable or ready to do that. So that's a setting that could be used. Thanks for that question.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Sure. Let me show you this page. This is where these images came from. So this is the original resource at Britannica Education that I thought was really fun. So you can use this as well. They have the pictures here, and they have really great explanations and answers for which one is AI generated and what the kind of clue is that tells you which one is real. So in this case, this one that's blue, not yellow, is the real frog because it has these irregular shapes and not the regular round shapes. So let me just go through quickly and tell you which one is real. You can even change colors here. So that is my real one with the irregular spots. This is my real one. You can kind of tell that more kind of old picture with the correct structures here. This is my real image here. This one has some extra arms in here. So that was the clue. It's kind of small and hard to see. If you click on it, you can see a little better that these arms don't quite line up with everything here. This is my real image here. It has more detailed leaves. This is a little bit blurry and more realistic land here. This is my rocket that's real. It has more details on the rocket itself here that are real. And I'll just go through these last ones really quickly. This is my real city. It has the correct buildings here if you're familiar with Hong Kong. This is my real northern lights with an accurate reflection instead of extra colors in the reflection. And this is my pangolin with a more realistic face, eyes, and hands. Also more realistic hands on my Egyptian papyrus, and the accurate text here with real readable words and more clear pictures there. So anyway, fun activity you might try with students. If you want to make your own copy, I have a kind of a blank template here. So you could click into that, and again, this is the remake button right here, so you could make your own copy there. Yeah, I know, the AI renditions of some of these things are just incredible. And so it was a helpful activity for me, and I think for all of us as these things evolve, and just to build that awareness of, wow, things that look really real could actually be AI generated, and taking that into images, taking that into texts and websites, and start to kind of build that awareness that we have to verify all these things now in a way that we never had to, and things are so realistic looking. Okay, well that was a fun activity from Britannica that I really liked. I'm going to keep us moving here. I'm going to show you two other tools that we have in Padlet. So the AI images I think are really rich. You can do a lot with them, and they're built into just every Padlet board and whiteboard. Another thing on the Make page is you have this section for AI recipes. So this is a fun thing that you can do. And there's a bunch of different things in here. So you can actually make your own reading list or map or timeline events. So let's try this. I'm going to say, what about the California Gold Rush? I can put any topic in here. I can select a grade level or more than one grade level. Actually, maybe I'll put the topic here like this. And then I can generate a Padlet. So in about 30 seconds or so, it's going to actually make a Padlet for me filled with content that I asked for. So in this case, I asked for a timeline and a timeline about the California Gold Rush. I could put a lot more details in there. I could put a standard. I could put a link to another page. I could give it more directions about the kind of events or the kind of things I want it to include. And all of that's really important to think about because you might want to make sure that there's good representation across different groups, or that it highlights certain areas or certain events. But pretty interesting. It can make this pretty quickly. It'll put images in there. This could also be an interesting kind of AI literacy activity for students. You could have them take a look at this and say, how does this look? Does this look like it's comprehensive? What's missing from these ideas? You could have them, oops, sorry about that. You could have them then add things that are missing, or we could delete and edit any of this information to change it. So that's a great tool that you can use to generate content and then look at it critically either yourself or with students. All right, so and I have a bunch of examples in here of different kinds of things I've made with that, that AI literacy tool within Padlet. All right, and then the last exciting tool that we have that's the newest is what we call Padlet Arcade. So let me put a link to that into the chat here so you can kind of see it with me. So if I'm in Padlet right here, there's a link right up here to send me to Padlet Arcade, or I can just go directly to arcade.padlet.com. You can use Padlet Arcade for free, and you can make as many games as you want to, or you can play as many games as you want to. If you want to save your games or save the ones that you created, you can log in with your same Padlet ID if you want to. So here we have a bunch of, so this is quite a different kind of area for Padlet. I've been showing you lots of different collaborative boards where students can participate and share ideas, share multimedia. These are actually just games. They're different formats of games, multiple choice, fill in the blank, matching, sorting, and there's a big library of games that we've already created with AI. Or you could generate your own games by entering a topic, uploading a file, and then generating something. So you can scroll around in here and find things. I could filter by subject area or by grade level. I could look into some of these games and try playing them. So let me show you one. So this one is asking me, sorry, that's a little loud, sorry about that. It has sound if you want it to. You can also make games without sound if you don't prefer that. You can drag and drop things in here, and you can just play these games live or share the link with students to play. So before we explore that a lot more, let me just give you a game to play, and we can all see what that's like. So here's a game that we can play all about famous teachers, and here the question is to kind of drag and drop the teacher into the country that they're from. And so you can try this one out, and then you can go ahead and submit your answer when you're ready. So we have a lot of games with different formats, and they're all pretty quick games like this, like fill in the blank, multiple choice, a great way to practice, and also, again, just another way to engage students for something that you're learning about, check for understanding, have a little fun. Maybe it's a competitive game, or maybe it's just something that they're practicing when they have time. But you can utilize our whole library, or you can make your own one of these games. All right, and with each of these games, there's this functionality for a leaderboard. So you can kind of see how people are doing on the game. You can see if they scored it correctly, how long they took, and it'll give them a ranking. You also have some controls for these games. If you come to settings, you can decide if you don't actually want that leaderboard, if it's distracting, if you want to show all the responses in here, it'll show you kind of all the people who have responded, or you can limit it to just the top 3 or top 10 if that feels better, to kind of just highlight those who have done the best on it. And you can also clear a leaderboard if you want to kind of reset it for a next class. So these settings, similar to Padlet boards, these settings are all available for you if it's your own game. So if you were in our library, for example, you might find a game that you really like. Oh, I love this homophone matchup. So maybe I want to make my own copy of this game that then I just play with my class. So if I wanted to do that, I would come to the remix button. And if I want it to just be exactly the same, I just click remix, and it's just going to make me my own copy that I'll have in my kind of library. Then I can share this link with students, and then we can play the game. I can set up my settings, but it can be a fun way that we practice with content. And then to show you this other piece, so definitely encourage you to explore the library. You might find great things you already like in the library, or you might have something specific in mind where you want to make your own game about a lesson that you're studying. So I might come over here to enter and make up my own game. One thing I really love is you can even add a file here. So if you have a lesson plan and you want to make a couple of games about that specific content, you can just add that file, and then it'll make the game based on that. Or you can just put in a standard or a topic. You select the grade level, and then it'll make a game for you. I can decide if I want to, what format, and then it'll give me a couple of ideas for different options. So it kind of takes me through these different questions. And then again, it takes maybe about 30 seconds to build this game. It's all AI generated, so you can continue editing the game as well after you make it if it's not exactly what you want, or if you want to change some of the answers or things like that. Oh, great. And I see a question over here about, is there escape room template on Padlet, or mostly matching? Yeah, we don't have an escape room template yet, but we are working on something that will allow for more kind of complex games. So that's in the works. So probably in the next couple months, you'll see some more of those capabilities. That could be something escape room-like, or something that's a little bit more kind of visual and interactive. Right now, we just have these simple games. So there are a few different types. There's multiple choice, matching, sorting, memory, flashcards, fill in the blank. So here is a multiple choice game. And so I can kind of go through here and answer these questions. If I didn't like one of these questions, or I wanted to change it, or maybe I want to change some of the descriptions in here, I could always make more changes by writing some text in there. But again, now I have my game and I can share this with students and we can all play it together. So this is a very new product for us, so we're very interested in people trying it and getting feedback about what they like or what's missing from it. So as you kind of play around with it, please feel free to send me feedback. I'll share my contact info so you can get in touch if you have any thoughts or ideas or suggestions. Here's a couple of other games. You can, of course, find some in the library, but if you're looking for a couple others to try right now, I linked in a few here of different formats. Here's a sports math challenge. So one thing I really like about these arcade games is that you can really customize it based on the things you know about your students. Like maybe you really want them to practice a certain type of math skill or a certain type of kind of literacy standard or whatever you're working on. You just want them to get more reps on that. You can make a bunch of games based on the same standard, for example. Or maybe I know that I have a class that really loves cats, like I was saying in the beginning, or a class that's really into sports or music, and then I can make games along those lines with that theme that just kind of make people smile, engage students a little bit more, and kind of build that connection as we're doing some of this academic practice. I shared a couple of the settings that you can do there. We're going to be adding to these settings and capabilities as we develop this game out. So as I was saying, it's just a few months old, but it's something that we thought would be fun to add to our suite of things that are very collaborative and engaging for students to have this kind of gamified aspect as well. All right, we just have a couple more minutes, so thanks for playing along there. I have one more kind of whiteboard for us to go on to. I showed you a lot of things today, and I know that some of you are newer to Padlet, so I hope it wasn't overwhelming. My hope is that you just have maybe one idea that sounded interesting that you might want to try on Padlet. So I'd love for you to come here and just point out anything that you thought was fun or interesting. If you were to pick one thing that you want to try next on Padlet, you want to try one of those games, or maybe an AI image activity, or maybe just an opener like we shared at the very beginning. So if you want to come on here and let me know what you might want to try. Maybe it's some audio recordings, or maybe it's a resource board for yourself. So I'll give you a couple minutes to get onto that Padlet that I just put in there last. So that's the last link in the chat. And you can try that right there. Also, if you have any other questions that are occurring to you now that we're kind of almost at the end, feel free to put those here or in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer those. And then I also have a few more closing resources to walk away with. I mentioned earlier that I have a free access code that you all can use if you have a free account. If you already have a school account, you don't need that, or if you have a premium account, you don't need it. But for those that have it, are making a new account, or if you have a free account. Oh, lovely. I see some images in there. Yeah, feel free to play with some of these attachments. That always makes it fun. Oh, nice. Yeah, reviewing for AP tests. It's great for the end of the year review, maybe to check out some of those arcade games. That's a great idea. Yes, sorry that it can be a little bit overwhelming because there's a lot of ideas here. So my hope is that try to just pick one thing. You don't have to do all of it. Different people will like different things. So I'd like to show a lot, but hope that you can just think about one that you thought was interesting. Yeah, podcasting feature. Oh, great. Different things. Yeah, a couple of people liking the podcasting ideas, audio recordings. Nice. Thank you for sharing there. Let me show the last final resources, and then I'll pass it back to Anu for some closing things. This is the code that I was talking about. And again, everything is on this resource page, so you'll have access to this later as well. But here is the free 60-day trial. If you don't yet have a premium account, you can just click on that and it'll upgrade your account for 60 days. That should take you through the end of the school year if you end in June. And then a couple other things, if you want more resources, if you're like, oh, this is really interesting, I didn't know Padlet had all of this stuff, we have a website at padlet.tv, and this has upcoming webinars, and then also has past recordings of sessions. So we actually just had a session yesterday. We have some in different languages too. And we even have some PD courses. If you're like, oh, I want to kind of get a step-by-step tutorial, you can come in here and take one of our kind of self-paced courses. The best way to get in touch with us is at hello.padlet, hello@padlet.com. That's our support line, and they just respond quickly. So if you're wondering if something is possible, if something isn't working, if you have a great idea you want to share or a suggestion, we would love to hear from you at hello.padlet.com. The premium accounts, I'll put that link in the chat here. We have a few different options, but the unlimited Padlet is about $100 per year. Oh, sorry, $120 per year per teacher, and then it's unlimited access to everything. You can get your school to buy it. We're happy to talk with your school if you want to put us in touch with someone, or you can just try it out with that free code that I got you, and see if you like it, see if you think it's valuable, and then we can talk more about pricing either for individual level or for a school level.
Thank you so much, Zareen. That's a lot, and I need I say any more? There is so much that you shared, and there's so much that we can do. But so thank you so much for walking us through it. And I will be sharing the recording and the resources that Zareen has been dropping in the chat. I'm going to collect them all and I'll share it with you. So don't worry, it'll all come to you. And before you go, please take a minute to do the feedback form right here, which is there. So I would, gather information from you, and it'll help me improve and bring you more such amazing workshops. And also want to let you know our next session is going to be called Wayground, which was earlier quizzes. So if you have been using quizzes and you have been wondering what's going on there, any new features, we are having someone present. Her name is Felisa Ford. She's a retired educator, of course. That's what I'm always looking for. And she would be talking about Wayground, which was previously quizzes. And it's all about student voice and choice and student being able to collaborate and engage, have meaningful engagement. And the next slide is on our feedback. I would really appreciate if you spare a minute and let me know how the session went and was it useful for you. And as always, I love to stay connected with all of you and learn from you also. So, and I would be, if you are in my newsletter, I will be sharing all this out. And also all those who registered, I will share out the recording and all the resources that Zareen has shared today. And thank you so much. It was so nice to have all of you here. And if there are any questions, we have a couple or more minutes. We can be here and ask Zareen. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming. Our next session is on May 28th. So looking forward to seeing you all next time.
Thanks so much. A couple people were asking just for that link for the feedback form or the slides again.
Yeah, it is in the slide.